All right. 3, 2. Hello, and welcome to episode 1019 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, February 25th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined today by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We're hanging out. We got dogs in here right now. We got some furniture being moved in, so you might hear a little pitter patter. You see Shar there in the little corner. They're gonna be running around. They're gonna be excited. I mean, they might bark a little bit, so hopefully not. But we're talking first baseman today. Are you excited for that?
I am.
I gotta be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a deep position. I was just in a draft, or I'm in a draft right now with you, crawling through the 40th round right now, and I already had 3 first basemen plus DJ LeMahieu, and like Nick Prado just kept dropping and dropping and dropping in this
And
draft.
you're like, fine.
And no, I didn't, because I already had so many. I was all
yeah.
I don't want another just first base only guy.
I thought you were saying that you took the plunge and just said, forget it.
But like, that's how thick the position is, because like my first baseman was Frank Schwindel. I mean, if you don't count LeMahieu. So
yeah. And it's funny that you bring that up about LeMahieu, because we're going to talk about him. And I actually, I did my little sections, and I call LeMahieu part of the fake first baseman, under the idea that he's probably better used elsewhere.
Yeah. I think as much as I like some of the upper tiers that we're going to talk about, like I think it's going to be, I'm going to need a really good deal to want to invest in first base earlier than like pick 130 or 140.
Yeah. I'm interested by first base quite a bit. I know we've talked, about pockets of first base quite a bit throughout the fall and winter, including some of them mentioned in our gold digging from a couple weeks ago, or last week rather. And, we've talked at the upper tiers too, but let's just go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about the 2 studs. We've been seeing some big chatter around Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on Twitter last week or earlier this week. He kind of dominated the landscape there, but he and Freddie Freeman, I kind of put a cut above. And then the next group is the stars. There's 3 other guys there. Those 5 could probably all go in a tier, but Guerrero and Vlad definitely go higher. Actually, I said Guerrero and Vlad. Guerrero and Freeman, they're a cut above. I mean, Guerrero's kind of by himself. Even he's in top 7 pick, consistently ranging as high as 2 in the last month in draft champions. And these are draft champions leagues since since April. God, why can I not say the month? January. Like, why am I going forward? Sorry. Since January 24th, pick 7. Freddie Freeman, pick 23 on average. So even Vlad has separated himself a bit from Freeman. Now, the big talk on Vlad is this idea that he can't be a first rounder because he doesn't have steals. And listen, I saw Jason's tweets the other day about steals and where, what's been happening with them. And, usually every year I write a where are the steals going piece. I'll do that again shortly here. And you're going to find that most of them do go early, right? The really good ones. And I get that. But this idea that you can't take Vlad because he doesn't steal, I think is kind of insane. If you are that hamstrung that you can't build a team with enough steals, I think that says more about the drafter than Vlad.
I disagree-ish with you.
Okay.
I think Vlad is deserving of a first-round pick. For sure. I mean, he clearly, I think, will likely return that value. So for that reason alone, I think you can say he should be going in the first round. He's a fine first-round pick. I would not be surprised, even without stolen bases, if he returned top 5 pick value.
But
I think the hard part with a guy like Vlad is because he does not offer 5 category production, it limits your options in future rounds. Because if you are going to get, with let's say your first 5 picks, you want to make sure you're getting an ace, at least one ace, saves, and stolen bases, right? Because you can get power later, and probably you want decent batting average, right? If you take a player that does not offer one of those things, then you are forced to, with pretty much your next 4 picks, to individually address those. So it can be done, you're just limiting your options, and I don't love the idea of limiting my options early on.
I don't know, though. I don't really think you are that much. I get what you're saying, but okay. So you know how whenever you do NFBC at the NFBC average draft position, it has a league that is kind of pasted over that. You know, on the far right corner, it'll say which team picked the player. This happens to be, I think, the DC that we did that had Pile Dial, Waxman, and a bunch of other people too. Remember that one? That was like our first one. So Zach Waxman is the one who took Vlad. He then goes Albies, Teoscar, Tyler O'Neill his next 3 picks. He's right back on track. I don't think that, and I don't think he.
But what's his pitching look like is the problem.
Roldis Chapman, Logan Webb, Kevin Gausman, Craig Kimbrell were his next 4 picks after that. I don't think he's off.
That's pretty well done, actually.
Yeah, so then Anthony Rendon.
Was that a 50?
That was our 150. That was the draft champions 150.
Wow, I'm surprised he got Logan Webb that late.
That was at pick 63. Now this was a while ago, right? This was one of our first drafts of the. I think it's my first draft, besides the Arizona one of the season, the one that you got us in. So this is just one example because he's who took Vlad in our draft. Why is it different than getting a speed guy in the first and then taking Pete Alonso in the third, though? What's the difference?
I mean, there isn't much of one.
Like, what can't you really take? Like another first baseman later? Okay, I mean, I don't know that's all right. But one thing you hit on, we talk about how valuable speed is, right? But we also talk about how valuable and how hard it is to get premium average. And Vlad absolutely offers that.
And so, I think there were only 2 guys last year that hit for more than 30 home runs and had a 300 batting average.
Who's the other one?
Was it Freeman? I honestly can't remember off the top of my head.
Might be. I got you. I'm pulling it up for you. You said 300 plus 30?
Yeah, 300 plus 30. So
that'd be Vlad and Bryce Harper.
There we go.
And Castellanos did it too.
Oh, okay. There you go. So 3 guys.
Riley, and so did Freeman.
4
so
guys.
4.
5 guys.
2 first basemen. Maybe it was that you knew that 2
first basemen. So,
but Freeman did indeed do it. But only 4 guys. To your point, I mean, it's only 4. You know, just because you didn't have the number exactly right, still very small. No.
Yeah. So, I don't have an issue with doing it. I'm not going to do it.
I'm okay saying you're not going to do it. It's the whole this idea that you can't do it that has Twitter.
I think it would be very unlikely for me to do it. I think the only situation in which I would end up doing it is if I was at the back end of the first round
and he fell.
He being
Vlad Jr. Yes, I agree there.
So because I can't imagine taking him over Albies. I can't imagine taking him over Tucker, Cole, or Burns. Really over Scherzer, probably. Maybe I do, and then I just say I'm going to grab Scherzer or Wheeler in the second round, something like that. So it's just not the build I'm super comfortable with. I think there may be a little bit too much hate within the industry on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to push back on is this notion that you can't draft him, you're really hamstringing yourself. It's completely fine. There's tons of great builds coming off of a Vlad pick. Pick him if you want. Don't pick him if you don't want.
For me personally, I want as many roads to be able to go down as possible. And I feel like taking either an elite starting pitcher in the first round or taking a 5 category producer allows me to continue to travel down any road I want. Whereas I feel like if I take Vlad, and to some extent taking Ohtani, though Ohtani does steal bases, I feel like it just lessens the roads I'm willing to take moving forward. Ohtani just makes me feel uncomfortable. I know he's not a first baseman, but he's a UT guy, so we'll never talk about him. So might as well just say I think in my first draft of the year I took Ohtani, and I think that may be the only time I end up with him.
Yeah, I mean that's another build that if people don't want to do that, we always say draft how you are comfortable. Yeah, right. So to that point, if people aren't comfortable with Vlad, I understand that. So I don't want to contradict myself, but I also don't want to be saying like force people to draft Vlad. The main pushback I'm pushing on is this idea that you can't, because you will then hamstring yourself too much in steals. That is not true. You can absolutely get enough steals off of a Vlad draft. That's it, and that's all. Freddie Freeman, going in the second round consistently, picked 23. I think he ventures up to the back end with his high end, right? I think, let's see here. His min pick is 15, right? So right there at the turn, but he's mostly a nice second rounder, probably because he doesn't have a team yet. Where do you stand on Vlad on Freeman right now? Do you think there is a little bit of a discount? Are you open to taking it? And then we'll get into where you think he's going, because now the latest news is like talks have maybe fractured a little bit with the Braves, although it's weird that we're even getting that news since there's a lockout. But anyway, how do you feel about Freeman's pick? Is he discounted because he doesn't have a team?
I don't know if it's because he doesn't have a team, because I mean, all the teams we've heard that are connected to him have been amazing landing spots, right? The Dodgers or the Yankees. So
yeah, but that doesn't stop us in the fantasy community from still depressing people down. Like we do it in our rankings. You and I talk about how we always have guys down a little bit. Not that we're going to be able to move Freeman up in this case because he's the number 2 first baseman.
Yeah, I mean, I when I'm not worried about where a guy lands, then I'm not worried. Like in Freeman, I'm just not worried about where he lands.
Are you picking him in the second round?
I have.
Okay.
I've picked him. I think as early as 24, 25. The last time I got him, I was able to get him at the 2-3 turn.
Ooh, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I was able to start Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman, and then Jacob deGrom.
Let's go.
So yeah, I mean, I'm a little scared of the deGrom pick, but
understandable. But I think you got those two steady gems there at the front. I know they're not pitching gems, but you got 2 rocks to kind of jump off with him.
Yeah,
I really like that setup there. That's a good.
Not only is Freeman a 30 homer, 300 average guy, he also steals bases.
He's like, Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, he's prime Paul Goldschmidt, and like
that's what I was meant to say. Yeah, prime Paul Goldschmidt.
If I'm gonna take a first baseman, probably in the first 3 or 4 rounds, Freddie Freeman's likely the guy I'm gonna end up with, because he offers 5 category production. I think the reason why he's kind of gets pushed down is just the other depth at first base. People going, I would much rather attack third base or outfield or, get one of the elite shortstops. And that's why he tends to fall. I'll take that value all day long. Just, if I think maybe Freddie Freeman is boring, I guess, comparatively speaking to some of these other, second rounders, but I don't think there's any.
That's fine though.
Yeah.
Boring's fine.
Yeah, I'd much rather have what I feel is pretty guaranteed production than a volatile profile. So, I have no problem with Freddie Freeman. I think he's going too low, probably.
I think so too. As you mentioned, the rumored places are all great if it's not back to Atlanta. Do you have a pick? Not that you want him to go. Do you have somewhere? Like, where do you think he's going to go? I guess.
If you had asked me this a week ago, I probably would have said he ends up back in Atlanta. I definitely would have. I think I've said it over and over again that
that's where I've been too.
Atlanta. I mean, I don't know. I mean that report, definitely kind of shakes, that belief a little bit. But
true, but we've seen ones like that before, right?
Yeah, you wonder how much of that is the agent putting pressure on the Braves to pony up.
Exactly.
So I still think Atlanta is the most likely outcome. You got to wonder, though, if the Dodgers, say, with Max Muncy being kind of a question mark, the ability to move Chris Taylor to the outfield and then not really having a ton of great outfielders anyways outside of Mookie Betts. If the Dodgers go, let's bring Freddie Freeman in. I mean, that is the least case scenario I want as a Giants fan. It would be amazing for him in the Dodgers. And for fantasy players. So I'm torn because the fantasy side of me is like, yes, I've got Freddie Freeman on a few teams already. Go ahead and put him on the Dodgers, where
But now your favorite team's in trouble.
yeah, where he can hit like right behind Mookie Betts. But yeah, that would not be good for my Giants. So
No, it really wouldn't.
not to mention, like, I know the Dodgers are going to sign people, and this is just fandom. So if you guys want to, oh, you just turned on something that is super loud.
Oh, I did. Oh, you know what? No, my mic jumped in the gain automatically for some reason.
Oh yeah, that was
because my heater's on. Which
I apologize for you guys watching on YouTube.
Sorry, anyone that got
about there,
blasted in the headphones there. Pardon me.
I will delete this for the audio. Or
Thank
the
you.
audio
Yeah. My mic does that sometimes. It jumps to the top of the gain, and I'm like, I didn't touch it.
Yeah, so
people can hear me. Microphone, chill out. Sorry, but anyway, yeah, you're saying you don't want him to sign with the Dodgers because of your fandom.
Yeah, and like I know the Dodgers, they've got a lot of money, they're a big market team, they're competing, so they're gonna sign talent. Do they have to sign such likable talent?
Exactly.
Like do they have to sign guys that I enjoy rooting for just as players? Like they took Mookie Betts away from me, and Walker Buehler is super cool, and
I love Betts.
Like if they trade for Cedric Mullins, I might have an aneurysm. Not that has been rumored in any way, but
no, you're just saying like one of your absolute faves on your least favorite team would just be awful.
Yeah,
for you.
So I just know
he'd be great for them. Let's see Baltimore Dodgers together. Yeah, so they might sign Freeman. We like Freeman either way. Do think he's a bit of a value there in that second round ADP. Let's go on to the stars, the next three guys. They're not terribly far behind this group, but I did think there was a cutoff because you go to Matt Olson, Paul Goldschmidt, and Pete Alonso. I'll throw Abreu in there too, although he's kind of on an island because Olson, Goldschmidt, and Alonso go 53, 58, 62 respectively, and then Abreu goes down to 91. But the next one after that is 120. So I figured I would include Abreu here because he's quite good. But I do think Olson, Goldschmidt, Alonso for me are a little bit of a cut above Abreu. So I agree with that split in ADP. Of these four here, Olson, Goldie, Alonso, Abreu, do you have a favorite that you've wound up on a few different times, or just one that you think is your favorite, but you haven't necessarily picked yet?
I have drafted both Goldschmidt and Pete Alonso. Goldschmidt's my favorite because he steals bases. And I feel like he gets discounted a little bit just because he's old. But I'll take a handful of stolen bases with my first baseman, and feel pretty darn good about that. It's still a pretty good lineup in St. Louis. I know it's not a great park to hit in. And maybe
didn't bother him last year though.
Yeah, exactly. And then Alonso, like, he's just a beast in terms of power. And so if I'm feeling, for some reason with my first few picks, I'm feeling like, I got plenty of speed already. Maybe I double tapped on two speedy guys. And I'm like, but I feel like I'm a little light on power. Like, he sometimes drops in drafts because he does not have speed. In those scenarios, I'm more than happy to draft him. I think the only guy that I'm probably not going to end up with this year is Olson, just because he's going higher than the group.
Makes me sad, but I agree.
Yeah, there's no stolen bases there. I'm not worried about where he's going to end up because wherever he ends up is going to be a better park than he was playing in, and
better lineup. Have you seen that lineup?
Oh yeah, I've been saying it.
God, dude!
The moment they trade Chapman and Olson, and really maybe the moment they trade one of them.
Yeah, because it's already crap, dude.
Yeah, it may be the worst lineup in baseball.
We were the MLB The Show came out with something called the Tech Test, which is basically just a beta. If people know what a beta test is for a game, you can play it, test it out, and there's this new thing where you can co-op. You can play with somebody, and we were using like normal teams. We picked Oakland because of their pitching. We want to use Montas. Oh my God, the lineup. Tony Kemp, Elvis Andrus, the two Matts, Seth Brown, who I do like, but then Piscotty, Pinder, Sean Murphy, and the game follows the real life where Ramon Laureano wasn't available because of the suspension. So Luis Pereira was in center. And when I made this weak armed throw from center, I was like, that's not Laureano. So yeah, that's where I learned that the Oakland lineup is rough right now. And if they trade either Matt, game over.
Yeah, because then you're talking about that lineup with, I don't even know who would play third base, but probably Thames is probably their first baseman. And,
which I don't hate, but he's not Matt Olson.
No.
I would say maybe Pinder could go to third, and then Skybolt could play the outfield, or Vermeil Machine could play third. Like that, they can move. It doesn't matter, is the thing. Does it really matter? Because it's not going to be anybody good.
No, and I mean, I feel for Elvis Andrus, who like spent all those years on those bad Texas teams, and now is stuck in Oakland.
Got to Oakland thinking like, hey, I'm on a good
this is a contender, right? They're going for a playoff spot, and then So
here's the thing, like Oakland has never been shy about having a downturn before they rise back up. They finished second, first, and then third last year. That was after 3 straight fifths in the division from 2015 through 2017. And then it was second, first, third, second, but then fourth and a couple thirds, right? So they might be ready for another 2-3 year down period. And we'll kind of see what's up with them, but it's not going to be good. I don't think it's going to be particularly good. So that's why I'm not really taking Matt Olson, because the price, like you said, and I'm more worried if he stays there than where he goes. But I just prefer Goldie and Alonso at their discounts. I'm really keen on Alonso. I think if you're making a list of guys that have the best chance at 50 homers, is he not tops on it? Because even guys like Judge and Stanton, who are there as well, they don't have the health track record that he does. So I think I'd put Alonso as the number one guy with the best chance at 50.
Plus, the DH of the National League, and he, maybe some of the days he would have had a day off is actually spent at DH. I mean, if I was making a bet on who was going to lead the majors in home runs, I bet you the odds would steer me towards going with Alonso.
Yeah, because if he wasn't the shortest odds, then I'm definitely taking him.
Yeah, exactly. So I like Alonso a lot. I don't end up with him very often necessarily, just because I'm typically looking for something that his profile isn't really strong in, whether it's stolen bases, starting pitching, saves, something like that. But
he does go in a period there where if you don't have those things, you might be more keen to getting those.
Exactly. But, hopefully by the time I get there, I am actually okay in those categories, and I can take a shot on Alonso if I want, especially when he falls. Like, he definitely does fall in drafts.
He does. And I'm loving Alonso, and I'm really excited about him this year. I think he's going to have another big year. I agree with you on the DH piece. Could maybe add to his bottom line, even though he already plays a ton. 152 last year, 57 in the 60 season, and then 161 in his amazing rookie year. Abreu, older, is he a bit overlooked? We talk about the fantasy community ageism all the time, and that's like mostly tongue in cheek. But I'm not actually saying it's ageism for anybody that's ever taken that seriously. We are ageist, but not in a way that,
I absolutely think it's ageism.
No, it is correct, but I'm not saying that like it needs to be corrected. Is what I'm saying. Like it's smart to not draft older players, generally speaking, because they are going to regress. Age will catch up to them. But it does create pockets of value with guys who have kind of beat the age curve. And I think Abreu might be one of those guys. I mean, he's as consistent as it gets. His batting average came down a bit last year to 261, but it was a career low 293 BABIP. He's kind of 3,100 in the bank. Is Abreu underdrafted at pick 91 as a 35-year-old, or is this fair based on the age and the depth of the position, et cetera? Like, where do you come out on Abreu?
I mean, he probably is underdrafted. He's one of the guys that fits perfectly into my standalone league punt batting average theory, because here are his batting averages over the last 4 seasons. In 2017, or last 5 seasons. 2017, he hit 304. 2018, 265. 2019, 284. 2020, 317. Last year, 261.
And the 265 from 2018 had a 294 BABIP. So the 2 times that his BABIP has dipped below 300, his average was a okay 260 something.
I just mean like good luck projecting what he's going to do in batting average. Like these are the perfect guys for punt batting average, or the guys with
because he might not even be a punt.
Yeah,
he might come right back to you at 300.
Exactly, and that's what you're hoping for a guy like Abreu in a standalone league. Obviously, if you're playing in a league with overall, you don't do that. But those of you playing your home leagues and want to play around with punting batting average, Abreu is one of those kind of guys that I like. I mean, 3,100 is pretty awesome. He's in the middle of a fantastic lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, outside of Vlad, arguably the best lineup, of the guys we've talked about so far. So, I mean, I think he probably is underdrafted. Again, he just falls into that kind of trap that I think Alonso falls into for me, which is by the time I get to the place where he's being drafted, I'm usually looking for something else.
Sure. I get that. I definitely get that. Who's your favorite of these four then, based on their price and talent? Okay, Goldie at pick 58.
Yeah, because he offers speed. He offers a little bit of speed.
Absolutely. And I still really like him. And yes, he's older, but I don't care. Paul Goldschmidt, it just looks so rock solid. All right, moving on. We're going to go to the power players we had in this category in catching as well. Kind of these mid-tier guys that just deliver big pop. Ryan Mountcastle, Reese Hoskins, Jared Walsh, CJ Cron, Josh Bell, Joey Votto, and Trey Mancini. Instead of giving all their ADPs at once, as we talk about them, I'll give their ADP. Let's start at the front there. This is not an ADP order necessarily, though. Ryan Mountcastle has first in outfield eligibility. He's pick 120. Fences are moved back. He's right-handed. He's going to feel that a little bit more. After the big season last year, are you in on Mountcastle? And then, if you were earlier, did the wall change impact you after his 33 homer, 89 RBI season with a 255 average with Ryan Mountcastle? How do you feel now?
Yeah, I was really in on him, especially at the ADP early on in draft season, and then his ADP started to rise, and they became less comfortable with it. And then the news came out that they're moving the fences back. He's probably the person who's most affected by it out of that entire lineup. And so I've definitely soured on Mountcastle quite a bit. I still think he's a good player. I still think he will be pretty good, but it's hard to draft a guy that is mainly power only. And you're real unsure about what the power output's going to be, because I mean, part of the my love for him was the fact he's playing in Camden.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those guys that I'm a little, that he doesn't have good StatCast data. He's never had good StatCast data, yet he's always just hit. He's hit at every level. I think he will continue to hit. I just wonder if it's going to be more doubles this year as opposed to a bunch of home runs, which, in a points league, great, awesome, because you get points for that.
It's just production.
In a roto league, not so much. And so he went from being easily at the top of this tier, especially with his outfield eligibility, to the bottom of this tier because of that fence move. So that's extremely disappointing for me.
Yeah, that is a bummer with Mountcastle, and I kind of soured on him a little bit as well, related to the rising cost with the fence move as well. I kind of have CJ Cron as the top guy in this tier for me. I don't think he's going to lose a ton of homers, but an incremental homer or three in this tier can really move you because it's a tight cluster of guys. He did spray his home runs pretty nicely last year. If you go look on Savant, you can see there the pink dots are dotted across the outfield there. Then those are his home runs on the spray chart. But there was always some risk with a 28% strikeout rate. That maybe his batting average will go down. 255 is pretty good. I can handle that with 30 homers. But if it's closer to 240 and he eats up, he's on the other side of 30 with his homers, it becomes a lot more bland there. I know he's young. I don't think Mountcastle at age 25 is, kind of locked into who he is. We could see maybe some growth. And I do like the outfield, but I have also soured on him to the point where I'm not really getting him. Mm-hmm. I'm leaning on any of the next five guys, including his teammate Trey Mancini. Let's stay in Baltimore with Mancini real quick. Trey Mancini, I included in this group, even though he has a 191 ADP. I did that on purpose, though, because he's the lowest ADP, and it makes me really like him. I think Trey Mancini's every bit as good as Mountcastle, if not better, and completely belongs in this group. I think he's an ADP gem. How do you feel about Trey Mancini? He rebounded last year from cancer brilliantly, and I think he's kind of underrated a bit.
Yeah, I have not gotten Mancini anywhere. He's not necessarily a target for me. I don't know quite what to make of him. There's been so much missed time, right, with cancer, and I mean, he came back. He was fantastic last year. 21 home runs and 250, or with 255 batting average in 147 games. That doesn't move the needle much. Now
I don't think that's all he is. I think that's like a return year, and then the power pushes back toward 30 this year, and that's how I feel about Mancini.
And I think a lot of people in the industry are starting to say that is, hey, we give him a pass, and I'm totally fine giving him a pass, but I have a hard time projecting him where I feel more comfortable projecting some of the other guys. And I just don't think there is really a crap ton of upside in Mancini where some of these other guys in this tier, like I could conceivably see be 40 home run guys. And so I don't end up with him. It doesn't mean I'm opposed to drafting him. He's going way later than the rest of the tier.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, especially if I miss out on a lot of the guys in this tier.
Yeah, Mancini could be a nice fallback. I agree with that.
But is he any better than like Frank Schwindel to me? Not really.
Wait a minute.
I really like Frank Schwindel.
I mean, I'm actually, we're going to get to him. I'm not anti Frank Schwindel, but I do think a 30-year-old journeyman who comes out of nowhere to deliver, this power surge that we saw for 64 games, I'm not putting him on the same tier as Trey Mancini, who's been a 30 home run hitter and an established big leaguer. I can't quite get there. I do think Trey Mancini has
but I have concerns.
What
if the power just never really comes back for Mancini? Like that is
not an unrealistic.
It's in the range of outcomes.
Sure. But what if Frank Schwindel was a stone cold fluke?
Then I'm in some trouble.
How much you got of him?
I've got a fair amount. I think
you got a lot of Schwindy.
Okay. I think I've got him in like 4 or 5 leagues.
Here's the thing: if all I get is a repeat from Mancini, I think that's fine based on the price. So if the power doesn't come back, I don't think that's terrible. But I think what you're getting is the potential of the power to return, and at the same time, you're getting a firm 18 to 20th ranked first baseman with those numbers last year. Yeah, I don't have it handy, but I got to imagine he was around there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with where he's going. There's so many other guys I prefer. It seems unlikely I'm going to end up with him.
Okay. And we'll get more into Schwindel here in just a moment, but let's stick with this tier here and talk some Reese Hoskins, who I've started to move up, or actually I've started moving him up a while ago. But, I had some major concerns about his health.
Me too.
With relation to, the surgery that he had at the end of last year with the abdominal, like the core surgery.
Mm-hmm.
The things I'm seeing, though, is that he's supposed to be fully back from that. And that my concern was, is that going to carry over? And you never know. Surgery is always concerning. But the outlook is starting to sharpen in a positive way where if he's going to be ready for day one and all that, Reese Hoskins is one of the best power guys in the league too. So I've kind of started to move him up and say, okay, maybe I was overrating it a little bit too much. I had him all the way down at like 22. I got him up now as my 11th first baseman. I'm in on Hoskins. And if things are bad and he is hurt, I'll change it, of course. But as I'm going into these next set of drafts, I see Hoskins as somebody to get.
Yeah, I've got Hoskins as my 10th first baseman.
Yeah, so we're right there. By the way, before you get in on him, ADP of 139.
Oh, that's going up because even on like our ranked sheet, I haven't updated the ADP in a little while. It says the ADP is 158.
So I'm not alone in.
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people are, because I mean, let's be honest, he's Pete Alonso with a poor health track record.
Yep, exactly.
In a much better park.
Yep.
I I mean, it would not surprise me if someday Hoskins stays healthy and hits 50 bombs.
Could be this year. I mean, he had
Yeah.
27 in 107 games, and his body was a mess because he had a groin issue too, in addition to the core surgery he had to get. So if he does come in and kind of feeling 100%, I agree with you. Hoskins is a great long shot bet for 40 plus and 50 plus. If you make those sort of prop bets, I know some folks can do that sort of stuff on like DraftKings and whatnot.
Well, we'll be in Vegas here.
That's right.
In a few weeks,
we can get a few bets in because
I wonder what $100 bet on Reese Hoskin leading the majors and homers pays out. Because I hate the fact that I can't make any sort of like legal prop bets or anything like that in California. So
same here in Texas.
So, but yeah, I like Hoskins a lot. He's definitely a guy I've been targeting more recently. Haven't got him a ton because I think, like I said, everybody
moving on him.
Yeah, everybody is kind of starting to get in on him. But yeah, he's probably my second favorite guy out of this tier. I just redid my first base ranks. I should update that with a date.
By the way, since Valentine's Day, ADP 129 for Hoskins. It's still cooking.
Yeah, so
upward.
Yeah, and it probably will continue to rise, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's not even at a cost prohibitive spot right now. It's just that discount that folks were getting. So credit to those who were bought in from day one this fall because they got some spicy Reese Hoskins prices.
Yep, I agree,
and I'm jealous of those folks, including in that draft that we did. Again, this was a DC from a long time ago. He went 190 in that league.
Oh,
could you imagine getting Reese Hoskins one? That's what it was back.
Who got him?
DC one Harsumchuk.
I don't remember who that was.
HARSOM Chuck. So
apparently, I've not drafted Hoskins this year.
So you've been targeting him, but missing him.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I need to change that.
Yeah, I like Hoskins.
I did just trade for him in that 30-team 100-man
that's
roster.
Why he's on your mind.
100-man roster league. I made a trade that included me sending you Darvish in a pick for Hoskins.
Okay,
this is on base percentage format.
I like that. So I have 4 completed drafts that would show up in my shares right now. I have one guy 100%. And he's at first base. You should be able to guess this. Do you want to try to guess who it is?
You have one guy at first base.
I have one guy who's 100%. He's a first baseman. We have not discussed him yet. It's definitely somebody that I'm obsessed with. It's so on brand.
Is it Luke Voigt?
It is. Yeah. Of course, that's the only guy I have on 100%. I knew you'd nail it.
Did you take him the draft we're currently in?
Let me see if I did here real quick. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I did. So that's 5 because that one's not counted yet. And so that's 5. 5 out of 5, baby. Luke Voigt. And I'll get to that in a moment because I stand by that. That's not like a meme or anything. I just I love his price.
I need to move him up a little bit.
I love his price. I think it's very nice. But we're still here on this tier. So let me get back to these folks here. We're looking at Jared Walsh next, the guy that you and I have really liked. Huge on him last year. Feel very good about my advocacy for Jared Walsh. I feel like we all got, if you joined me on that journey, I think everything went pretty well there, even though the second half was a little bit dry and his work against lefties was really rough. He was a homer and 2 ribbies shy of 3,100, despite the fact that he only had a 565 OPS against lefties. And it wasn't the whole second half. Okay, I keep hearing this whole second half Jared Walsh. He did have a 783 OPS, which is not awesome, but it was really July that was bad. He had a 543 OPS there, but then 796 in August, which is meh, but then 929 with 4 homers in September. So he closed strong. So I don't know. I'm hearing second half Jared Walsh, and I don't see a big issue. He is terrible against lefties. He did hit 10 homers against them, though. Do you have any concerns that he will lose some of those incremental at-bats against lefties that could maybe cut into his homer count? Or do they just not have anybody that they will play ahead of him anyway?
I kind of feel about Walsh like I feel sitting in my office right now. There's currently, and for those of you who are watching this, there's currently a bee and a fly roaming around my office. The fly, whatever. The bee. If I start running and screaming or running away and screaming, that is why.
It's
And
because of
that's
the
kind
bee.
of how I felt about Jared Walsh. So, because I wasn't as in on him last year with you, but I did get him in a few spots. I appreciated that you kind of pushed me in that direction at times, because he was fantastic. But you look at those splits and they are absolutely frightening. Not so much worried about what he did in the second half. I'm more worried about what he, did against lefties, because he's got a platoon happy manager, and
And he's picked
uh,
124. You don't want to take a platoon guy at 124. So I understand.
yeah. That being said, at the moment he doesn't have a platoon partner on that team. There is
Yeah.
nobody on that roster,
Ice is a lefty
or
himself.
yeah, and nobody in or even in the like high levels of the minors that I think could come up and platoon with him. Supposedly his defense is pretty good too, so maybe that helps. There's no more Pujols on the roster. I think we'll know pretty quick if the Angels sign someone who seems like, hey, this guy could be a first base platoon bat, and then
He
that'll
has some.
tell you.
Yeah, he has a 900 OPS against lefties in his career.
Yeah,
Why are they
exactly. Yeah,
bringing him in?
not that Mike Rousseau is like available or anything, but a
Yeah,
Mike Rousseau type,
or Wilmer Flores
guy.
type. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Even though Wilmer
uh,
Flores' splits have actually evened out a little bit in recent years, but he's known as like a lefty killer. That's a good point. Keep an eye on that. See if they bring in somebody for Walsh. But if not, I think you can confidently trust him.
I have drafted him. Like I do like the player. I do like the price. He's also a guy that because he was pitching and hitting in the minor leagues, he
Mhm.
may be kind of a little bit slow to learn some of this stuff. So, um, maybe he's one of these guys who just gets better with time, even though he's not like a young prospect or something. So
Yeah,
I think there's still room for growth. And if he's a guy who can learn how to hit 250 against lefties or 220 against lefties,
that'd be
um, you're talking about potentially another five, maybe even 10 home runs, because we know he's got power to that side of the field.
yeah.
So I think, yes, is there a little bit scariness in his profile? Absolutely. I have dropped him in my ranks because of that.
Where's
But
he
I'm
at?
not. Currently, he is. I have him as my 13th
Okay, okay. So
first
he's down
baseman.
there a little bit.
So he's right above Mountcastle and right below CJ Cron. So I think there's definitely a little risk to profile that there isn't with some of the other guys in this tier. Though I think almost every guy in this tier has some sort of red flag. It's kind of picking and choosing which red flag you want to go with.
Yeah, I think that's fair. See, what's CJ Cron's though? Because he's my number one guy at this.
Injury.
Okay, yeah. That is completely fair. I have him ahead of Jose Abreu. Even
You
I
have
love
you
CJ
have
Cron.
you have CJ Cron ahead of Jose Abreu.
He's sixth at first base for me. Yeah, I
Ah,
mean he completely panned out how we wanted in Coors. Right, there was that big rush of his ADP when he got signed because the projections came out and everyone was like going crazy. He hit 281, 28, 92 in 142 games. I understand the health with 142 games in 2021, 125 in 2019, and 140 in 2018. Some of that is losing games against right-handers with Tampa Bay, but a lot of it's injury. And his time with the Angels was injury ridden for CJ Cron, but he's in Coors and he's so good. I, I love him. I'm buying right back in this year. I mean, he hit 280, and I don't need a full 280. Like I'm not banking on that. But even if he comes down to 260 and goes 30, 100, again, he was 2 homers and 8
but
RBIs short of
oh,
that.
hold on. I don't think he's gonna go 30 100. I mean, he might go 30 if he
He,
stays if he stays healthy. They got the DH there in the National
what you're
League.
gonna you're gonna say that their lineup's too bad to go 100 when he went 92 last year with a dog shit team?
He went 92, and they got progressively worse.
Okay,
Losing story.
who cares? Like who cares? It's Colorado. Like it does not matter. And fine. I mean I don't need 100 there. I'll take 30,
I mean,
90.
I'm probably not going to end up with Abreu either, um, but I think it's a little crazy to rank him above Abreu. There's a much longer health track record with Abreu. He's on a much better team.
So older. He's on a better team, but he's not like. I think that team context has to be canceled out at least somewhat by the fact that he plays half his games in Coors for Cron.
I mean, and it's not like Cron is young. He's like 32.
He's 32, but 32 to 35 is still a difference. A 3-year difference, absolutely. I don't know. I love Cron. Like Cron hit 25-78. 253 with the Twins in 19, 30-74 with a 253 in 2018 with Tampa Bay. Couldn't land on a team. Had 4 homers in his 13 games with the Tigers before he got hurt. Like all this guy does is produce and just gets passed around team to team. Thankfully, he's sticking with Colorado.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a good hitter and a good player, but I think team context and lineup, or team context, lineup, and health, you got to put Abreu above him. I mean, you don't, but
I don't.
You're wrong not to.
I don't think I am. Like I like CJ Cron. I think he's really, really good. I want to dig in a little bit more on this injury history here and see what this perceived injuries are here. So he had a lower back issue this year, or past year. It was the knee that got him out of 20. That's Kevin Cron for that one. He had a thumb issue in 19. I don't know. I see the thumb, the knee, and the back in the last 3 years. Nothing chronic. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. I think he plays. I'll get my baseline of 140 games. If I can spike $150 or more, it's great. But I'm playing half the games in Coors. I love CJ Cron.
I don't dislike him. I'm surprised to see you rank him above Abreu.
I've got some issues with Abreu. I think. I don't know. I keep looking.
You don't like consistency.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. I don't like 35-year-olds, I guess, which is weird. I'm 40. Who am I to judge?
Yeah, right. I'm 37.
But no, like, when I can find an equivalent guy or near equal, I think that is 3 years younger, I am going to let the age kind of dictate it. Like, I don't see that much difference between Cron and Abreu. I
think if you want to say like based on the price, I get it, but I think
that's part of it too.
Yeah, no, in that part I get. In a straight 1-for-1, I don't think there should be much of an argument. But you disagree, and you and your purple shirt can just do what you want.
You're damn right I can with my Vince Carter shirt. Speaking of insane prices from this draft, Pile of Dial got him at 223 Cron at 223 in that draft we did. What was going on with that draft? 223 is insane.
He's gone up a lot.
Abreu was the other way, by the way. He was 66. So Abreu's come down. Cron's gone up. Yeah, Cron's at 129 now is his ADP. But I'll pay it. I'm in. I love Cron. All right, Josh Bell, another guy I actually love. I'm really in on Josh Bell now too. And it took some winter study, just kind of a collection of reading stuff and studying further. I just think he's pretty rock solid at this point. And I know he had a kind of a tumultuous trajectory to get there last year with the terrible start. But actually, no, I'm actually going to correct my characterization there. It wasn't a tumultuous one. It was actually just a slow start that it took a while to wear off, so to speak, because he had a 464 OPS in April. And because that's so bad, he still was sub 700 into mid-June, even though from May 1st to mid-June, he had a 782, which is perfectly palatable. It's not great, but it's perfectly palatable. But honestly, if you just go from May 1st on, Josh Bell, 865 OPS. So he had that terrible, terrible April that took him a while to kind of push off of his stats, but his bottom line was still quite good. 261, 347, 476 with 27 homers, 88 ribbies. That's a bad team. So that's why the counting categories were a little bit low. They're not going to be that much better this year, if at all, but that's fine. I think that's kind of put into the price. He has the same ADP as Cron at 129, and I'll take either. I like Josh Bell quite a bit too. I think there is a little bit of the hate that's gone too far with some people that think that he was there's a little bit of a perception among his detractors that 2019 was this spike year out of nowhere, and he's never really been good beyond that. And I disagree with that characterization.
Yeah, he's a guy that I have recently really risen up in my ranks, because I kind of had this feeling like he fell apart in 2019. He struggled at the beginning of 2021. Like, do we know who the real Josh Bell is? But then, actually, I sat down and did a podcast, Field Division podcast with Jordan Eisen, who's a cool kid in the industry. And he, him and I were talking it out, and he kind of brought me around a little bit on him and did a little more digging. I was like, man, not only was it really just April where he hit 113 in the month of April, uh, he actually made real improvements against lefties, which has been a problem for him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he's becoming actually kind of a complete hitter. We know he has a ton of power in that bat. I mean, the dude is just jacked. He's kind of starting to do what we've always wanted Yandy Diaz to do, and
Yeah.
we don't have to pay for it. So, yeah, he's a guy that I don't know that I've gotten yet, but I want to.
Yeah, I like Josh Bell a lot. 129 ADP, right in line there with CJ Crone. And this isn't like pushback on you because I had the same perception until I was researching this offseason. Even 2019, he didn't really fall apart. It was June and July that kind of stabilized. The power was still there, but the average came down. He hit 208 in June, 218 in July, with 229 and 222 BABIPs respectively. But he closed strong with a 927 and 803 OPS in August and September. And so I think there's this perception that he did, coast to the finish line for Bell, but he didn't. He surged back up. 20 was bad, but it was a 2-month season. This is why you don't put too much in the 2-month season. People got a huge discount on Josh Bell last year. That's not there this year, but it is still a very fair price that I will pay for Josh Bell.
Yeah, it was a 2-month season on a Pittsburgh team that everybody knew wasn't going to be very good. There was rumors they were going to be trading him the entire time. So I mean, yeah, you watch that away and you go, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I think most people are projecting for high 20s, low 30s home runs, but he's already got a 37 home run season on his ledger.
Yeah,
in Pittsburgh, yeah. So I think he's a pretty decent gamble. I have him as my number 9 first baseman.
I've got him as 8. We are in pretty much lockstep there. All right, then Joey Votto's the last one here in the power players, and I'm just going to throw it directly to you. What's he do for an encore here? He sold out for power last year. Do you buy it, or are you concerned that a 38-year-old who spikes some power out of nowhere, even somebody as good as Votto, can't do it again? Where do you come out on him at age 38?
I completely buy it. This was a real change that he made. He got more aggressive. He said, and he even talked about this in the media, like, hey, I've been known as this really patient guy, but I want to hit home runs, and the way to do that is to become a little more aggressive and a little less patient and attack the zone, and that's what
He
he
still
did.
walked 14%
Yeah,
too. That's the funniest part. It barely touched his walk rate. Votto's a god.
He's just got an elite eye. I mean, it may be one of the best eyes that baseball has ever seen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely would put it up there with anybody's. I mean,
yeah,
when he gets called out on like a close called strike, I always defer to him. I'm like, the ump got it wrong. I'm like, they got it wrong. No, they got it wrong. If he didn't swing at it, it wasn't a strike. 36 homers and 99 ribbies in 129 games, Justin.
Yeah.
He didn't play all year.
And now you got the DH, where I assume they will use him a fair amount in order to keep him healthy. I think Votto is a really, really nice gamble. Definitely a guy I've taken already and will continue to take throughout the draft season.
Pick 146 on average for Joey Votto. Easy to pay that, I think, because I think some of the concerns about age and whatnot are built into that price.
Once again, I have lied. I have not taken him. What is going on?
You're lying. So okay. I guess you'd have to search. I was gonna say, can you figure out who you've been getting at first base? Because you've had a few good guys that you say are targets, but you're kind of missing out on them. As you're looking over your list, who are you getting consistently?
I am scrolling down, and really, nobody. Like,
Schwindel? How many Schwindels you got? Because you did mention him earlier.
Apparently, I've got one drafted Schwindel and one that is in the league that we're drafting right now.
Yeah, so that one won't show in the list just yet.
But I don't really even see. I've got to be missing somebody, but I don't necessarily even see Freddie Freeman, I have 2.
Okay.
And Evan White, I've got 3.
Well, you're on that Evan White train.
He's just going so cheap in
I mean, yeah,
PGA.
he's like,
He's
I mean,
free.
we talk about free, exactly. I know,
Here it is. Someone in over half of my drafted league so far. It will be half once this draft finishes because I did not get him in this league. Bobby Bradley.
Bobby Bradley. Okay, you talked about him on the gold digging. We talked about how he could be somebody, but now that should be more of your corner util than your starting first baseman. Though.
Yeah, but I mean, other than Freeman, and I guess now Schwindel once this draft finishes, I've been clearly spreading it around, and I think that speaks to the depth there at the position. Is that I can leave a draft with a lot of different guys and feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, because we've said throughout these first several tiers that we like him. Like we're targeting.
You can only draft 2 to 3, right?
Exactly. You did mention one of these guys that you have. I put these under the fake first baseman, and what I mean by that with DJ LeMahieu, Jake Cronenworth, and Ty France is that you might prefer them elsewhere. You and I like the depth of first base. We like that power there. If you get power elsewhere, you can put one of these lighter power guys there. That's fine. There are builds that totally works.
Yep.
But the way second base looks this year, I think all 3 of these guys are better put at second base. That's why I called them the fake first baseman with LeMahieu, Cronenworth, and France. LeMahieu goes pick 119 on average over the last month. Cronenworth at 125 right behind him. And then France a good bit behind them at 152. Is LeMahieu your favorite here or just the one you've ended up with the most?
I think LeMahieu is just the one I've ended up with the most. I've got Cronenworth ranked even above that previous tier. But I've got LeMahieu ranked above that previous tier too. But I've got Cronenworth 1 spot higher than LeMahieu. Just I don't think there are any real question marks about Cronenworth. I think you can pretty much pencil in low 20s homers, a decent batting average, some chip and stolen bases, a boatload of runs, and triple eligibility. And I love the eligibility. Whereas I think I believe LeMahieu is going to bounce back. I do.
To what though? Let's get into that specifically. What do you think he bounces back to, particularly with his power? Because that's the thing. The average was down too. I think a lot of people can get behind the average coming back for DJ LeMahieu. But what's the power output for you now after spike the big 26 in 2019? We all knew that would come down a bit, but put up 10 more in 50 games in 2020. But then just 10 last year in 150 games. So it ping-ponged around a bit. Where's the power wind up for you with LeMahieu?
I think it's high teens, maybe low 20s.
Okay, that'd be amazing, especially if he gets back his batting average into the high 290s, low 300s.
So, I mean, I think clearly the injuries hurt him last year.
Yeah.
Playing through a hernia. So I think he's going to bounce back and kind of be fine. He's just too good of a hitter. The question is, what power do we get? But he seems pretty good in that park, and he's going to be hitting on top of that lineup. So even if let's say he has 15 home runs, will I be disappointed? Yes. Will I still recoup my draft costs if he's hitting 300 again? Absolutely. So I love the triple eligibility, first, second, third. So
yep.
I'm totally fine drafting LeMahieu. I in this draft we're in right now, he's one of the guys on my team. I think I already mentioned that. So
yeah, I have no problem getting LeMahieu or Cronenworth. I could see a build where I might get both. If it's on like an elbow there and I can just go bing bang, I would be open to it. I have not done that yet or anything. In the drafts that we're in right now, I took Walsh and Voigt in the triple play draft that we're in, and then I'm also in Raslam. But Raslam's completely different, so it's not even necessarily worth saying who I've got there. But I do have Hoskins and Cronenworth and Goldschmidt actually. But different league there with the cut line best ball. All right. Ty France. I think we talked about him a while ago, and I mentioned that I had a bold prediction in my roster review of the Mariners that he could hit 30 homers, and I believe that. I believe that is a again bold prediction. We know that that's a low end probability, but something that could happen. I think he's got the hitting ability already that we've seen, that if he kind of, keeps developing the power, tweaks a little bit, maybe sells out the contact a little bit for some more pop, because he is a 46% ground ball rate guy last year. But I think Ty France can have a banger year. I think even as is, I like him, but I could see a big power explosion from France that some might not be expecting.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think he can be. I think he could potentially be like a low 20s, really good batting average guy that, in that lineup, which I think is going to be pretty good.
He's a career 13% homer to fly ball rate guy, though. Like, that's just.
He's also a career like 30% fly ball guy.
Obviously, it'd require a change. That's the whole point.
I need to see that change, though. Like, I'm not gonna.
But to have everything laid out for you, then you're not going to really get in on, how do you envision breakouts then? Everything has to already be there in the stats. I don't know. I think, and again, this is a bold prediction. This is not something I'm hanging my hat on. That
I'm not saying it can't happen.
Being 18 last year, I think it's not even that crazy that he would hit 30.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen. To me, I'm never going to end up with him because of the other guys at the position. Like, I just feel so much better about guys going in front of him, behind him.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Frank
so
Schwindel.
Not in on it. Yeah,
I'm just not in. Just not in.
You're buying.
How do I only have 2 shares of Frank Schwindel?
You're obsessed with him. Apparently, you're buying what he's done in like 9 games. But
Frank Schwindel is the next Cedric Mullins.
Oh God, gross. All right, the next group is called the Max Muncy. It's just Max Muncy. I didn't really know what to do with him. Obviously, I don't even think you have him.
Don't draft him.
Yeah, I know.
I do have him ranked. I have him ranked 34th.
Yeah.
Right behind.
Might as well not even have
Rowdy Tellez, who needs to come up a fair amount, and Darren Ruff, who does not need to come up any.
No, Darren Ruff is fine where he's at on that. Yeah, I've got Rowdy Tellez at 26. I like Rowdy Tellez. But yeah, I got Muncy at 19. I don't know, man. Like, obviously, the last bit of news, the thing that everyone goes and sees, is that, from his MLB Network appearance back in November, that said he's not recovering as quick as he would like.
Well, and that he has a torn UCL.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the not recovering as quickly as he'd like.
No, I think it's that.
UCL.
I think it's absolutely UCL that part. He's not recovering as quick. Do you know how many guys have like a partially torn UCL? Do you know how many of them
want to draft them.
You are drafting them, is what I'm saying.
I just draft. Well, I know, but I don't know about it.
Okay,
I can't do anything about information I don't have. I can do something with the information I do have.
You might be overreacting to it just because you know the information. If you're already drafting guys that do have it, that's all I'm saying.
I completely agree with you that we have so little information that we tend to overreact to the information that we do have. But I can only work with the information I do have, and the information I have currently is that Max Muncy is not recovering well from a torn UCL, and the Dodgers are interested in Freddie Freeman.
Pick now, 176. Yeah, I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, the Dodgers may have already been interested in Freddie Freeman.
Yeah,
with them because they would put together an all-star team if they could.
They're trying.
That being said, I am not drafting Max Muncy in spite of the fact that I absolutely love him.
Yeah, I adore Max Muncy. Pick 176. A max of 218. Like, there's no cutoff there for you where the price is worth it. I mean, you took like 412. You're known for taking injured players. You took like 412 on your first main event. You have run completely the other way. That's scarred you.
Yeah, I have. I absolutely have. If this was my
first,
not
a bad idea, by the way.
Of course, it's not. Since I started becoming injury averse as opposed to what I did, I've become a lot more successful player. So, but that being said, like, I just can't.
Did Dave teach you how to become injury averse just by?
No, lighting $1,700 on fire and never hearing the end of it has made me more injury adverse.
Good.
So, but yeah, I love Max Muncy. When we did the AFL draft in October, prior to any information about this, I don't think the injury had happened yet. because didn't it happen in the
Playoffs were
playoffs?
going on,
Yeah, I think it happened
so
in
I
the
don't.
playoffs, right? So,
I,
um,
I think so.
the majority of the people in our draft did not come prepared. And so I was the only person with ranks, and I
You
gave
were
them
not the
out
only person with ranks.
like actual ranks that had been done and all that.
Oh, I had my own.
Yeah, well, you actually came prepared, but a lot of people
Yeah,
did not. And so people
true.
asked me if they could use my ranks just to have a player list. And I said, sure. And I got some looks when they saw that Max Muncy was my fourth first baseman.
Because you were super keen on
I
him. Yeah,
was
I think
extremely high on him,
healthy Max Muncy would
but
be very high for me. I agree.
yeah, but the injury is just he is a no-go for me until we see him play multiple days in a row.
I mean, you can't go broke doing that. So
Yeah.
I understand that, right? It just an avoidance thing. Somebody might hit a land gold mine there by getting him that late if he
Yep.
plays and he goes 30-90. But an avoidance of him does not necessarily cost you with regards to Max Muncy. I totally agree with that. I understand that. I don't have him anywhere outside of a shared league with my friend Greg Martin. We took him. This was the very first draft of the NFBC season, and so again, things were uncertain. We didn't even know that he wasn't recovering as well. This was well before November 29th when that MLB Network appearance happened. So we have a Max Muncy share from way back when. But I'm not drafting him, but I'm also it's not a hard avoid, right? I got him 19th on my list. But guess who's 17th? Luke Voigt. So you know who I'm taking in that range there. It's Luke Voigt 8 million times. Even Luke Voigt's ADP is cheaper. I guess I usually just pass on Muncy and we'll take my other injured guy in the form of Luke Voigt. So I get it. I think a lot of people are averse to Muncy right now, and I totally understand. I am surprised that his ADP isn't lower though. So there's some people still drafting him because he has a min of 123. I wonder if that's auto pick.
I don't know. We saw him go in like the 7th round or 8th round of labor the other night.
He did.
Yeah,
Man, I guess some people just aren't as averse and maybe worrying about that news there. But I understand the concerns. All right, let's talk about the next wave. And I did include your boy, even though he's 500 years old, but he is just getting his career off the ground in Frank Schwindel. So it's Alex Kirilloff, Nathaniel Lowe, we go by Nathaniel now instead of Nate, Bobby Dahlbeck, Frank Schwindel, Spencer Torkelson, and I even included Rowdy Tellez. Obviously this is a mix of like legit prospects, but then also some guys who, still haven't fully made their mark. Rowdy Tellez is 27 years old. I still think he has a bright future, so I included him. Frank Schwindel just debuted, not debuted, but broke out at age 29. He's gonna be age 30 this year. So I took some liberties with the naming of this class and who I included. But these guys could be big up and comers this year that really turn the tide for people that draft them. Let's start with Kirilloff because I've soured on him as the offseason has gone on, just because I'm a little bit more concerned about the wrist than I was at the outset of draft season. So he's got an ADP of 188 as the 19th first baseman off the board. He does have first base / outfield, which is nice. Love the talent. Wish I had a better read on the health. And because I don't, I actually moved him down quite a bit. And I've been kind of laying off the Kirilloff situation. Where do you currently stand with him after the wrist surgery to end last year?
He was one of those guys when like I did my ranks in September that I was like I'm gonna be getting a lot of Kirilloff. I felt like the market was gonna discount him. Top prospects that don't do well in their first go around always get devalued. He's coming off an injury. People are going to completely just miss him on the ADP. And I could not be more wrong. Like nobody is discounting him. He's actually overvalued at this point, which is a bummer because I'm really interested in him and I wouldn't mind having him on a team or two. But I think I do have him somewhere.
Prove it.
So I'm gonna look because I feel like I did draft him early. Did.
Go ahead.
I drafted him in my first NFBC Draft Champions League.
Okay, there you go.
So, but since then I haven't touched him.
And in this one that we did, again, that's on the far right of the ADP board. He went 216, so right in line with his ADP of 188. So perfectly within the range that he normally goes. 146 is the min over the last month. 235 is the max for Alex Kirilloff. The power had just gotten going too when that injury cropped up, required surgery, ended his season prematurely. And again, you talk about power, wrist injury, not good for power issues. That's what has me concerned.
And this has been a reoccurring thing.
Correct.
Since even before he was in a minor leaguer. I got him in the back end of the 14th round in that draft, and that feels way high. Got a first baseman who went after him, Frank Schwindel, Bobby Dahlbeck, Luke Voigt, Nathaniel Lowe, Roddy Tellez, Eric Hosmer. Like, yeah, there's a number of those guys that I actually prefer him at this point. So, ranks change. He's definitely gone lower in mine.
Things change over the course of the offseason for sure. So we're kind of tepid on Kirilloff right now. I will say, though, that first sign in spring that he's healthy and looking good.
Yeah, he'll shoot up.
And I'll be part of it, I think, too.
I doubt I will be.
I just need the sign, really, that he's good to go. All right, moving on to Nathaniel Lowe. And again, used to be Nate, now Nathaniel. I am really intrigued by him. I think that his season from last year is a little bit under the radar of what he did. I mean, all this talk about speed, and he went 8 for 8 on the bases there at first base. And that incremental speed at positions that you don't expect it, like catcher and first base, they don't need a lot to be impactful. So even if he came back down to like 6 or something, those 6 stolen bases, again, I'm not saying that they're going to make your draft and then you don't have to draft steals. But incremental speed at unexpected positions is so nice. I think there's power upside for Lowe. And if he continues to chip in some steals, I think we could have a nice breakout here. And then Jake Malott wrote a Nathaniel Lowe has breakout potential piece on Valentine's Day too, that I'm like, okay, I'm even further on board now because we're getting front page stories about Lowe, and he broke down everything about how his season went. And I really think there could be some substantial upside here for Nathaniel Lowe. How do you come out on the 26-year-old Texas first baseman?
Another one of these guys that I was extremely low on coming into, early part of draft season. And then I wrote him up for the ADP market report beginning of February at first base. And when I went to go do some more digging, as I do when guys pop up on that kind of article, I went, oh, this is cool. Oh, this is good. Oh, I like this. Yeah, he is one change away from returning like second round value.
That's what I'm saying.
And so for that reason, I'm in. He's not a guy that I've been in on before. One of the things that Jason had really, hammered home with him, doing pods with him, is that he's got a huge hole in his swing. Well, he closed that last year.
Yeah, remember, Lowe came from Tampa Bay. That's why Jason probably spoke a lot about him back when he was with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he really, really struggled getting to the high fastball, and he closed that. He had a 90% zone contact percentage last year. He's got a ton of power on that bat. The one issue is his launch angle.
I mean, that's where he's got to figure out to get the power.
Yeah, he needs to learn how to elevate. If he does that, there's legit 35 plus homer power in the bat. A guy who, like you said, stole bases last year, could hit for average. So, I mean, it's obviously an if, but this is one of those kind of guys that I love to put on a bold predictions article. Bold prediction, Nathaniel Lowe hits 30 home runs.
Exactly.
And is like a top 7 first baseman.
Because here's the thing that I love about Lowe and why I do foresee him being on more teams coming up for me. A repeat is perfectly fine.
Yep.
If we miss on the bold prediction and he just does what he did, he's the 24th first baseman at pick 230 on average. Now, I think he's going to go up. I think there's going to be more of this interest in him. And if you're going to write a piece, and we're talking about him now, and, a couple other pods start getting in, you'll see the community move him up.
Yep.
But even if he moves all the way up to, say, first baseman 1920, with Kirilloff Mancini. Pick one late 100s pick. He was the 18th first baseman last year, as is with 18 and 8 and a 264.
I was just looking that up. Like, I just
So
think that it's such a safe
there's
bet.
so much upside to be even better. So I love Nathaniel Lowe. I'm super in. Where do you have him ranked currently?
I currently have him ranked at 20th.
Okay, so we're not too far. I have him at 18. And this was a big jump for him. When I came into the offseason, I kind of gave him short shrift. I did not have my low radar set there, and so I had him pretty low, pun intended. And so now I've moved him up. Yeah, I have him at 16 actually. I even have ahead of Luke Voigt. If I have somebody ahead of Luke Voigt, that's some pretty big interest there because Luke Voigt's a god.
And I'm actually going to move him up 2 spots.
Love it.
Really, I moved other guys down, but yeah, so I've got him now at 18. So
perfect. So we're big on Nathaniel Lowe. Let's continue on then and talk about Bobby Dahlbeck. We've done the Dahlbeck thing quite a bit. There's other pods there.
Yeah.
I just think he's as bland as it gets.
Apparently, I've drafted Bobby Dahlbeck this year too. So
you have.
Yeah, he's just a power guy though. Like, if you need late power, fine. The problem is, as certain members of the industry start to really go, this is legit, he's going to turn into a real dude. His price has been going up, and so I doubt I get him again.
This isn't even a diss, but he's just another Miguel Sano.
Yeah,
not necessarily with the health, and that was a big issue with Miguel Sano. So I will point that part out, so that if Dahlbeck stays healthy, he can maybe have the better trajectory that Sano's had, because Sano's been kind of up and down because of his health. There's nothing wrong with Dahlbeck. Like, you can fit him into a team where he's going to have the low average and the big power. There are builds that works. To me, the last 2 months of the season are being made into some big change that he is. I see it as standard power stud variants as opposed to changes that is who he is now. Because again, go look at Sano's month to month in his different years, and you might see some spikes and you'd be like, oh, we can hang on to that as new. No, I think it's just the variance on the high end of what a power guy can do. I just don't see anything different from Bobby Dahlbeck. Like, the one thing that kind of gets me with it is I think he's being touted for cutting his strikeout rate down to like 30% from 35. I'm like, that does not move the needle for me at all.
In such a small sample, and we saw him do this previously.
Yeah.
Where in a small sample, he just hits everything. But it was also a small sample that was mostly against lefties, who he's always crushed.
Mm-hmm. This is Dahlbeck.
Yes, we're talking about Dahlbeck. The Red Sox have Tristan Casas in the minor leagues, who's pretty close to being a finished product.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dahlbeck's one of those guys that has a huge range of outcomes. If he starts out hot, he could have the potential to just stay there all year. But if he starts out cold and you get past those first 3 weeks, what is stopping the Red Sox from replacing him with Casas, and then he is nothing?
Buried. Yeah. And that's the thing. And I do think there is that sharp downside for Dahlbeck, and why I have so much concern. And just swing and miss like that is volatile. Let me get the actual numbers out. April through July, 38% strikeout rate. Last 2 months, 29%. But again, I don't see that as like a large game. It wasn't as small of a dip as I thought. So I was wrong on that. But it still had a huge swinging strike rate. I just think he was running hot for 2 months. I don't know that Kyle Schwarber unlocked anything with Bobby Dahlbeck. I'm just not a huge fan. We don't have to belabor it because we have discussed it quite a bit. Let's get to your boy, Schwindel. We've hinted all around him a million times this episode. Let's start talking about Frank Schwindel. He did break out like literally out of nowhere. Like, this is as out of nowhere as it gets. Journeyman type, debuted with KC back in 2019 for 15 plate appearances, went 1 for 15. It didn't get much better with his little debut or return to the bigs with Oakland earlier in 2021 when he went 3 for 20. Goes over to the Cubs and just finds something. What he finds mostly is playing time. They just let him go, and he popped off. By the way, nobody was making anything out of the 35 plate appearances before that. Like, it's just that he was nothing on the radar. Like, he wasn't on the radar at all. So when he popped off and went 13 homers, 40 ribbies, 42 runs with a 342, 389, 613 slash, we were like, I'm sorry, what? He's not an imposing dude. Frank Schwindel looks more like a utility middle infielder than a power first baseman at 6'1", 220. And he's out there just hitting tanks. So what's up? Is this legit? I mean, again, you've been talking him up a lot of this episode here. Break this down. Do we really need to be bought in on Frank Schwindel? He's going to have the playing time in Chicago. He's going to be 30 years old, kind of out of nowhere. What did he do last year that you like as legitimate?
He made a ton of contact, a ton of zone contact with power.
Nice.
Yeah, max exit velocity of 112, zone contact rate above 90%. I think it was like 91.2 or something like that. And was aggressive in the zone. And as long as he is the first baseman, my major concern is I don't know what the hell the Cubs are doing.
They don't either, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, that scares me.
You think a team should know what they're doing?
I think they should, especially a team with as much money as the Cubs have.
Okay, fair.
So that being said, I believe he's going to be the starting first baseman. And if he can get to 500-600 plate appearances, I think we could see 25 plus home runs and a really good batting average, like 280, 290, something like that. It's not a good team, so who knows what the runs and RBIs are going to be around him. The runs are probably going to be atrocious. RBIs probably decent, 80.
Yeah, but at that price,
Yeah, I just think...
I didn't give his price. I'm sorry. Frank Schwindel goes on average, pick 231, a range of 196 to 268. So even at the high end, you're around pick 200, which, it's not free, but there's a lot of wiggle room there for Frank Schwindel. And that's why you like him, right?
I like him a lot. Maybe the average isn't quite as high as I think it's going to be, but
what'd you say for the average?
Like 280.
I mean, the projections don't love him for that, but I don't think that's terribly out of pocket. If those strikeout, Frank Schwindel had minor league numbers like this. The thing was, he did have some good minor league numbers, but he's always
made contact.
Yeah, that's the number one thing with Schwindel is contact. So if this power is legit, I think your average is more legit than your power projection. I think you could get 280 with like 17 homers. I'm not dissing I'm saying between the two, I think the batting average is more firm. But no, I think your whole projection is fair. Like Schwindel, it's not a huge sample at 259 plate appearances, but it's not insignificant either. There's a lot to like here. So I understand. And I don't think the market's overcharging because he is a 29-year-old journeyman.
Yeah. Okay. I think he's just one of these guys that people are going to ignore for, longer track records, which is fine because I'll be happy to scoop him up as my CI in a lot of leagues.
No, I think that all checks out. Spencer Torkelson, he's on the best team in the league, which helps always, right? To be on such an amazing team, rich franchise, just so many excellent things going on. So I love that aspect of it for Spencer Torkelson. No, I think we'll have him up in the first month. Number one overall pick, kind of following the trajectory, right? Things are working out very well right now. He had a nice 3-level season, high A, double A, triple A, did well at every single one. I wrote in my top 27 redraft prospects yesterday that the Tigers are probably going to use the dwindling batting average at each level as a reason to keep him down for a few weeks in AAA because he only had 40 games there and he hit 238. But his plate skills were great. He had a 233 BABIP. He's ready from day one, but unless they change the CBA, we know he's going to be down for a couple weeks. But when Torque comes up, what do you expect out of him? Do you think he can be just a solid mid-20s homer with 250 average on day one?
Yeah, I think he could do that. I think he'd probably do better than that. I
think he can do better than that, but as like a projection, do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, especially if he's going to miss the first month of the season. They can always point to, like you said, the batting average. Yeah. Defense is always a thing, right?
Yep. He's so nebulous, right? To be like, oh, we just working on his defense, and you're like, okay.
He also did get injured at AFL. Yes. Had like what was called a pretty serious ankle injury.
Very scary initially,
but in the last week, we've seen video of him taking batting practice and doing drills and things like that. So seems like he's going to be ready for whatever spring training we do have,
Mm-hmm.
and should be ready for the season. So my guess is they send him down, because unless he decides that he's willing to sign a contract to come up day one. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously the ceiling is absolutely through the roof. I mean, this is a
Agreed.
guy who is projected to have an above average hit tool with plus power. Um, in some leagues he's still third base eligible. I think in Yahoo he's like
Ooh.
third base eligible, which is amazing. Um, so yeah, I mean, I haven't, or maybe I have taken him somewhere. I can't remember if I have or not. I think like in a league where there's a DC, he's definitely worth taking a gamble on that he's going to be up early and could be a monster right from the gate. In a regular league where you don't have like minor league spots,
Mm-hmm. Just reserves.
yeah, just reserves and shallow benches and stuff like them. Because of the depth of first base, I'm a lot less likely to invest.
I think that's fair. I don't like to invite players that are going to miss time guaranteed in general, right? Whether that's via injury or the minors. There are pockets of times. It's not a universal rule, but I try not to. So I don't have Torkelson anywhere. He is picked 263, so there's not a huge premium for him right now. But again, my boy Luke Voigt going after him, Rowdy Tellez as well, two guys that I'd just rather wait for because they're going to be playing day one if they're healthy. So I like Torque. I think he's going to be impactful from day one, but I haven't drafted him anywhere.
Yeah,
So it's more of like I'm kind of waiting and seeing.
I'm looking to see if I have drafted him somewhere.
All right, let's prove it.
In NFBC 50, I took Torque.
Okay, okay, you have indeed taken him. So you have where do you have Torque ranked?
I have him ranked pretty low.
We both kind of do. I have him 28. I think you have him 34.
I may move him up a little bit just because the 34 reflected the injury.
Yeah.
The question is how far can I really push him up?
By Sano and Dahlbeck? Maybe?
Yeah, probably. Probably move him like right in front of Brandon Belt. I don't know. I mean, Brandon Belt's got a job. He was really, really good when he was on
last year.
When he was great when he was on the field. I just worry about how much he'll stay on the field. But then,
correct.
How do I push a guy that I know is not going to start the year on the field
ahead of
above him? So probably in between Brandon Belt.
I think you have Belt way too low. By the way, I have Belt.
A lot of people do. Everybody pushes back on the Belt ranking, and what I push back on is that dude gets injured
fan, and I've seen
all the fucking time.
I know.
Love him.
But we're down here at a level where things like that happen with players. I still think even accounting for that it still might be a little bit too low, even if he doesn't keep all the power. But I'm not trying to persuade you to move Belt
because you want
him clearly.
Yeah.
But that's one that you'll take the miss on. That's fine. I mean, you have Bobby Bradley ahead of him, which is truly insane.
Yeah, because Bobby Bradley probably will get 600 play appearances. Brandon Belt will not.
Rowdy Tellez, I love him.
I just, while we were talking, moved him up to number 23. I think, especially with the addition of the DH for Tellez,
that really helps him, of course.
Yeah, that helps him a lot. There is some platoon threat. There shouldn't
be. Thank you.
There absolutely shouldn't be, because he has not been a guy who's been bad against one side or the other.
But they have Brasso, and
they traded for Brasso.
I know. But hopefully that he can be used elsewhere, and like get some.
That would be my hope,
because Tellez does not. He's not shown that he needs it, and I know splits do not stabilize very quickly. So, you can only go off what we got, though. And in 242 major league plate appearances against lefties, he has a 755 OPS, which is only 20 points lower than his work against righties. So Tellez is only doing what he can with the time that he has. I haven't seen anything in his profile that says he needs to be platooned. I love him, though. I was a big fan of his coming into last year. And even though it was the shortened season and everything, and he had a shortened season, he only played 35 of the games. So I was like, not saying, hey, this new strikeout rate is real, but I was like, if he can hold some of these strikeout gains with the power that he already has, Tellez could be a monster. Well, it didn't really pan out with Toronto. He had 151 plate appearances that just did not go his way. 245 BABIP really held him down. He did hold some of the strikeout gains. It was a 20% rate, which was still pretty good. But then he goes over to Milwaukee and really started to click the way I thought he could with Toronto. 18% strikeout rate, 272, 333, 481 line with 7 homers in 174 plate appearances. I think Rowdy could not only possibly hit 30 if he gets the playing time, but also be a batting average boom where he's hitting like 270 plus, which you don't normally expect out of somebody who can hit 30. So I love Tellez. I don't have him as much as what's his face, Voit, but I do have Tellez shares. I have 2 of them already, and I will have many more.
I don't have any Tellez shares. I want to remedy that because while I do believe there is an early season potential for him to get platooned, I don't think it is a definite. And there is a ton of injury risk on this team.
Oh, yeah.
I
Absolutely.
mean, Colton Wong misses time.
Lorenzo Cain. And I know
Lorenzo
that
Cain
he wouldn't
misses
take
time.
Lorenzo Cain's spot, but things would move
But
around.
Tyron Taylor would take Lorenzo Cain's spot, and then Tellez could be the full-time DH.
Exactly.
Or
Yelich, health issues.
Yeah, so I think there's so much injury risk on the team in general for the Brewers that a guy like Tellez, the guy he could be, platooning with Brotzer, will likely be playing other positions. They move, they have a ton of flexibility. They've got guys who can play everywhere, including Luis Urias. So, I think there is a real opportunity for Tellez to get 500 plus plate appearances and be an absolute monster in the process. So I have moved him up. Like I said, he's up to my number 23 first baseman. I would like to make sure I get at least 1 share before the end of draft season.
I like it. I like Tellez a lot. All right, let's go to the crusty vets. Jonathan Scope, Anthony Rizzo, Yuli Gurriel, Brandon Belt, Luke Voit, Jesus Aguilar, Miguel Sano, Eric Hosmer, Carlos Santana. Big range here, right? Because Santana is like way down. He's picked 432. He had a disastrous season, but I did include him here because he didn't really fit in any of the next 2 categories that we got. But he's a cut below all these other guys. In fact, it runs a range, right? I think Scope, Rizzo, Gurriel, they're kind of on the higher end there. Belt, Voit, Aguilar, Sano are kind of in the middle, and then Hosmer and Santana are kind of forgotten. But they're all vets. Anybody that you're targeting a lot here? Is there a favorite of yours? I mean, mine's Voit, so we don't need to speak about that. But do you have a favorite?
Not necessarily a favorite. I like a lot of these guys, though. I've ended up with Jesus Aguilar. I think he gets underrated.
Yes. Last year, too.
Jonathan Scope is like about as steady Eddie as you get. Super unsexy, but
never steady during a season. Like we'll have what I call the scopening. There's always a month or 2 where he pops off, but the bottom line is very steady. I agree with you.
Yeah. So I mean, you end up like kind of setting and forgetting, and at the end of the year, it's low 20s to mid 20s homers.
He was
80
13th
RBI.
at first base last year.
I know. I have him as a top 20 guy.
That's nice, man.
And I just moved him down. He was one of the guys I moved down in order to move other guys up.
He's picked 200 on average, 21st first baseman.
Yeah, and he's second base eligible too. So I a guy who can play MI or CI for you. I like Jonathan Scope quite a bit. Rizzo. I don't think Rizzo's done. I think Rizzo's one of those guys that I do kind of wait and see where he lands. I assume he's going to get a full-time role somewhere. I just have a hard time placing it.
Same. I agree. Like he's Anthony freaking Rizzo. He's going to be playing somewhere every day and be a team leader and all that.
Maybe he takes Freddie Freeman's spot in Atlanta.
Because they're cheap as hell over there.
Yeah, so maybe that's the spot for him. I don't really, off the top of my head, I can't really think of a great fit necessarily. Chicago, the Cubs.
I mean, back to the Cubs. That would hurt your Schwindel love, though. Although DH helps.
Yeah, I assume he would be the DH there. So I like Rizzo a lot. I think he's probably undervalued. Luke Voit it's all about health with him.
Correct.
You know,
and I know that. Like I love him, but I know if he's not healthy, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I think if even if the Yankees brought in like a Freddie Freeman or a Matt Olson, like they've been rumored, I think that means Voit would be heading somewhere else, and I think he would be fine on a per plate appearance basis. It's just for Voit, it's all about can he stay on the field. I mean, he led the league in homers in 2020. Like, there's no reason he can't do that again over the course of a full year. The problem is he never plays a full year. So,
true.
I think
why the 60-game season helped him because it was a full year.
Exactly. So I think if you're going to draft Luke Voit, just make sure you have a pretty steady option as a backup for him.
Yeah, like a Jonathan Scope, Luke Voit combo. Would be
also, Yuli Gurriel gets no respect. And
correct.
It's
ageism through the roof.
Lack of power at the position. But, I mean, when you can pencil in like 280 and high teens home runs on one of the best offenses in baseball, like I just don't understand why people disrespect him. He returned more value than most guys did in drafts last season.
He was ninth.
He's still being underdrafted.
Ninth among first basemen. ADP is.
But we're also now talking. We're also talking about guys like in this tier that are ranked in our 30s.
No, absolutely. No, you're
we still have we still have two more tiers of first baseman. Like this is an insanely deep position. Now there are huge drop-offs within this insanely deep position, but it is insanely deep. Like I could conceivably like wait until this tier to draft a first baseman and be totally fine with who I've got at first in CI.
Oh yeah, I think if you went like, I mean, you get three of them and go like Scope, Voit, and Gurriel. You put Scope at second, Gurriel at first, Voit at your corner, and then kind of see how things go. And if Voit is hurt, then okay, Scope fits in there for you. Know, I agree. You can really wait if you want.
In this draft you and I are in right now. I mean, I did draft LeMahieu, like I said, but I have three actual first basemen. Frank Schwindel, Keston Hiura, Edwin Rios. Like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a position that you can wait on if you want there. I have Walsh and Voit in that draft, and I'm fine with that. And maybe Gavin Sheets will get first base during the year. He's UT only right now. All right, Brandon Belt, we already discussed about Luke Voit, Jesus Aguilar. Jesus Aguilar led the National League in RBIs last year. Is that right? Or he was for a very long time. Then he did not hold on to that lead, but he had been leading the National League in RBIs for a very long time, and then he got hurt. That's right. He only played 131 games, but he had 93 ribbies on Miami, dude. Yeah, I love Jesus Aguilar. I had him everywhere last year. Couldn't get enough. 22.93 with a 261, and he missed 30 games. Imagine if he'd been healthy. You're talking upper 20s, 100 ribbies with the quality average. I'm back in again this year on Jesus Aguilar. I have no problem taking him again. And you said that you've already taken him in some drafts, yeah?
I said that, but once again, not on my list. I don't. So many guys.
Well, how many drafts do you have currently going?
Currently going, I just have one draft.
Oh, okay. Because your pairs won't show until the draft is completed.
Yeah, this will end up being my 10th draft so far. Is that right?
How many more are you allowed before you lose
6.
your bet? Okay.
Well, my bet with Rob 7. My bet with Danielle 6, I believe is what it is.
And she gave you an extra one for Valentine's Day, right?
That includes the extra one. So,
okay.
So I've got TGFBI, 2 mains, auction, and tout are my last drafts.
You're not doing an OC, beat Justin Mason?
I'm not doing any OCs. I'm not doing 12-team leagues this year.
Okay.
So
don't like them?
I find myself not very good at them.
I'm shit at them too, man. Beat Paul Sport is the easiest thing you can do. 15 teamers, I hold my own. But the 12 teamers, man.
The hard part for me is FAB because I look at the guys on my team and I go, these guys are too good to drop.
No, that is a real thing.
Turn and burn them.
That is a real thing. And I think I've spoken about this league a few times on the show, the 10-team ESPN local points league that I play. And how hard it was for me to start cutting some of these guys that aren't performing because it's a burn and churn with like your last 5 spots. And it's the same thing in these 12 teamers. You're right. I feel like I've gotten a bit better at that in these recent years. But again, beat Paul Sport. I did 2 of them last year and boy, did they. They really lived. The competitors of that league really lived up to the name. They beat Paul Sporer pretty handily. Because I just didn't have my 12-team success. I had 15-team success last year. So I do think they are different skills. And that's why, when people start getting on their whole thing about like, 10-team leagues are easy and this league is hard, they're all their own different set of challenges. And 10-teamers can be remarkably difficult for us deep league dorks because we don't cut players appropriately. We hang on way too long. So that's a good call out there. Miguel Sano, moving on. I know you've been a fan in the past, and we've had our debates on him. And he's just a ho-hum, 30 homers, bad average, as long as he plays kind of like 115 games-ish. I know he had 34 and 105 games in 2019. That was a rabbit ball. You still in on Miguel Sano? Is he still somebody that wets your whistle?
If I get too late in the draft and I'm looking for power, he's definitely a guy I'm willing to target. I always feel like there's enough talent in that bat that at some point maybe we see a monster season from him. Injuries have been an issue for Sano, though, and I do kind of wonder a little bit about Minnesota's commitment to him long term. So
this year, and
I know he's on a long term deal, and it's somewhat team friendly, but at the same time, like he clogs up spots for them.
What do they got to play over him though? There's room for him and Kirilloff, no?
Yeah, there is, but like with playing Kirilloff at first, that means Sano has to play DH when they want to. What do they want to do when they want to give Josh Donaldson days off?
True, but they're used to that with Cruz, so it's kind of status quo to that end. But I hear you, but I think that's just where they've been before. If anything, I think Kirilloff might be the DH, and Sano might get some first base burn because
and that may be the case. But it just, I mean, it's a high strikeout rate.
Absolutely. I've never been a big Sano.
I mean, I was a big Sano guy at one point. I mean, I remember in the Dynasty or the RotoWire Dynasty Invitational years ago, I took him as like a top 80 pick, I want to say like that, and I was stoked to get him in that.
I mean, the power is drool worthy. I understand
it is.
But last year, the deal, by the way, 9.3 mil has a team option for 2023 at 14 mil with a 2.75 buyout. So that kind of strengthens your point because now they don't have such long-term built in that if he is struggling, I want to be clear though, he hasn't had but one subpar season by WRC plus. Every other season has been at least 100 WRC plus, if not better. He was 110 last year. So Sano has been a plus bat for them, but to your point, maybe their commitment isn't as strong this year, knowing it's the last year of the deal. If he gets out to like a 160 batting average in the first month, and Kirilloff's popping off, and Josh Donaldson is hitting well, but needs some breathers off of third base, and Trevor Larnach is killing it, and maybe if Nick Gordon got going, I know that I'm putting a lot of ifs out there, but
for those of you that are like, but for those of you who are playing in like on base percentage leagues, he got back to walking in a double-digit rate last year, which makes his on-base percentage a lot more palatable. I probably should like
still only a 312 though.
But still, I'm 312 when you're getting 35 home runs is fine. So he went back to a little bit more patient approach that he's shown in the past. So and he made more.
2020 was a disaster for him. He struck out 44%. That's a 2-month run though. That's the thing. Like it isolated a 2-month run.
He's a streaky guy. Like he's one of those guys. Sano's one of those guys where, like he'll hit 8 home runs in a matter of 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden he'll go
2 weeks without one.
Yeah, he'll go 2 for 34, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, do I need to drop Miguel Sano? But I mean, let's see. I mean, 2019, 2021, hit 30 plus home runs. And, so yeah, I probably should get to know more, but
don't get him more.
It's such a deep position. When he was third base eligible, he was a lot more interesting.
That was always fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even as a Sano detractor, I could get behind the third base eligibility.
He was almost third base eligible in Yahoo this year. He missed it by 1 game.
Oh, really? I didn't even
Yeah.
know he was getting that many over
Yeah, he
there.
played well. Donaldson got hurt. He
That's
played
right. That's right.
nine games at third base.
All right. Eric Hosmer.
No, I just know.
So boring.
No.
Can't
Why?
do it. I know.
Like the Padres are willing to like eat, like, or give away like good prospects to get rid of him. Like he's gonna get traded to a team, with like Luis Campusano, just to get him off the team. Like that's how little his own team feels about him. He should not be on your team.
Okay. Not about to fight back on anything you said. I cannot stand Eric Hosmer. Some of it is bias because he was a shit to our boy Eno. I carry that. Yes, it's not even my fight to fight.
That's a plus for me.
No, see, I disagree. I love Eno.
I love Eno too.
565 plate appearances last year. 12 homers, 65 ribs, 53 runs, 5 steals, 269 average. By the way, LOL at him figuring out power because he did it for the 2 month for like for a month because it was only 39. He only played 38 games in the shortened season. So remember when he figured out power because he actually lifted?
I was starting to believe that too.
I would never believed it. He didn't figure out shit. But 12 homers, 5 steals, 269 average. Where do you think that finished? He played all year, 565 plate appearances. Where do you think that finished among first basemen?
23rd.
I'm impressed that you were that low. I thought the volume would make you push higher. But with that much playing time, he only finished 28th because he was so shitty power-wise. So good call.
I thought that's the reason I went as high as I did was because I just thought he volumed his way.
Yeah, like he couldn't even volume his way there. With 565, he was 28th. Unless you're in my league, do not draft Eric Hosmer.
Yeah,
and if you're in my league, draft him all day because I don't care. It's a free pick for me. Like it's a free pick off the board. I don't even list him off. No, I'm kidding. But no, I have no interest. And by the way, the market's there too. He's the 34th first baseman off the board. The market realizes Eric Hosmer.
Man, we hear about bad contracts all the time. People do not talk enough about how bad Eric Hosmer's contract is.
I think it's because it's so well ingrained and everyone knows that we've kind of like there's no debate.
We knew it from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like,
and nobody's pushed to the other side like, well, I don't know. I think everyone just universally agrees, and that's probably why we don't talk about it.
Eric Hosmer feels like he's robbing the Padres.
He knows. He's like, ooh, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it back, but my bad.
I wonder if like every month when he picks up his paycheck, if he just shows up in a ski mask.
He's just like, still this high? Damn. Okay, cool. I'll take it, but I don't deserve it. Nah, listen. He still deserves it more than the owner, and I'm not.
Absolutely.
So,
good for him.
Still rather Hosmer get that money than the owner.
Like, I don't have any hate towards him personally. Like,
no,
I'm glad he got paid.
Yeah, it's not his fault. I never blame a player for getting a big deal because who the frick wouldn't sign? What are you going to go in and be like? It's like that dweeb on that commercial that calls the out of bounds on himself. Have you seen that one? No. He's like, Coach, I touched it. And they're like, shut up, Alex. It's a championship game. Like, that would be Hosmer going in and being like, I don't think I deserve this.
That was a commercial about sportsmanship.
Yeah, that guy's a loser. Alex is a fucking loser, dude. Shut the hell up. They called it out on the other team. Anyway, Carlos Santana, we talked about him the other day because we talked about Vinny Pasquantino and Nick Pratto, two up-and-coming prospects at first base for KC. I do still think that Santana is going to get an opportunity to kind of show that last year might have been a fluke. And I feel like he could actually be kind of a decent rebound. Even in this awful year, he only struck out 16% with a 13% walk rate. He hit 19 homers, which is not great, but, very close to getting back in the 20s. He's 36. But if he got back to, say, mid-20s homers with a 240 average, would that be crazy? Do you think Santana's toast?
I don't think he's toast. I don't think he's good, but I don't think he's toast.
Between toast and good, that's fantasy viable, though.
I think the hard part becomes once Pratto does come up, which I think expect him to be up fairly early this year. I mean, he's a finished product. They're going to play the service time games, and then Pratto will arrive at the major leagues. does Santana struggle to find the lineup?
Well, right now we don't even have him in the lineup. That's because two different things, though.
Yeah,
We
and
have Witt.
these are the two different things that make it difficult for him.
We have Witt penciling at third base off rip, which we don't
Uh-huh.
know, and then Mondesi's taking his job at DH there, and Dozier at first base. So that's three things actually. So
Yeah.
I don't think any of those three things are guaranteed. If Carlos Santana is the opening day first baseman, I would not be surprised. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say I expect that to happen. Now, can he hold that job is a completely different question that I do not know the answer to.
I expect him to be the opening day first baseman because I don't expect Witt or Prado to be up opening day.
Correct.
I know a lot of people are like, "Oh no, they're gonna do it." Well,
they're not going to do it.
It sounds like in the CBA discussions yesterday, the players started to move a little bit on the service time games. So it sounds like those are going to stick around.
Yep. And I would, even if they did get changed, I think it would start like next year. I don't think it would be an instant. I think it'd be one of those things where it's like, okay, starting in 2023 type of deal.
So I think Prado and Witt start the year in the minors. I think Santana's opening day first baseman, with Dozier playing third. And I also think that shit happens, right? Yes. Somebody will get hurt, or they can make a trade, or and that way Santana could be one of the ones who's traded.
True.
And then
he's only making like $8 million. It's not. That's the thing too. Even with his struggles, he's not cost prohibitive.
And they might be willing to eat all of it in order to get a decent prospect back in return. So
yeah,
I think that Santana is definitely going too low. I think he's a great DC guy because I do think as long as he's healthy, he will find his way to 500 plate appearances and be just good enough. Especially considering where Santana is going in drafts, all you want is plate appearances, right?
Exactly. The volume that you can get that late. By the way, he's making 10.5 this year. It was 8.8 a previous year. Sorry on that, but 10.5 isn't cost prohibitive either for Carlos Santana. They could move him and keep the money, like you said. Even a team like KC that is normally a bit cheap, they could even eat the 10 mil if they really thought that they could get somebody decent there. So. We'll see. I don't think he's going to rebound to 2019. He was a rabbit ball beneficiary big time with a 281 average, 34 homers, 93 ribbies. But we're not that far removed from that season, and his core skills are still in line with that, especially the plate skills. I'm looking at the batted ball skills too. Yeah, the batted ball skills are the same as well. And again, rabbit ball versus not. But I don't need him to get all the way back to 34 homers. So Carlos Santana, boring. Nobody's going to care when you pick him. Not a terrible pickup, though. I really don't think
once
he is
again,
in DCs.
For those of you in on-base percentage leagues, he
moves up like
he moves up picks. A ton. Yeah,
not 300. I'm kidding, but he's 432 on average right now. I mean, like Carlos Santana, you can take him in the DC and be fine. All right, let's talk about the CIs, the corner infield. These guys are much better used at CI. Because of the depth, of first base. Lamont Wade Jr., Yoshi Tsutsugo, Pavin Smith, stud, Bobby Bradley, Darren Ruff, Christian Walker, and Keston Hiura. So some intrigue here, right? There's some guys that I'm sure you're eyeing and you get excited about. I got some guys I like here too. I obviously acknowledge my boy Pavin Smith. I want to start with Wade though, right? That's your ball club. Mm-hmm. They were a platoon heavy team last year, and he was part of that, but he plays on the strong side. So even if he's platooned, I'm not terribly concerned. Right now, we do not have him carved out for a platoon on roster resource. How do you see Lamont Wade's playing time turning out before we get into what he can actually do with the playing time?
I think he's probably one of those guys that, at least initially, is, the strong side of platoon and is going to be playing pretty regularly. I get this feeling like he feels like one of these Giants players that like has that one great season and then kind of disappears.
You think he might have been a fluke?
I know. It absolutely feels like it. That being said, a 90% zone contact percentage is not a fluke. He's always been a very good zone contact guy. He has shown the ability that there is power in that bat with a little over a 10% barrel rate. Average exit velocity of 90 miles an hour. Like, it's a feeling that Lamont Wade Jr. is a fluke. It's not.
Sometimes you go on a gut feel.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like something I can seriously back up. I think the biggest issue with him is he plays on the Giants, which is a bad park to hit him, even though it's gotten better. And it's a team that loves to platoon, that has a lot of other options. We've talked about Brandon Belt. We've mentioned Wilmer Flores. Darren Ruff is there. Darren Ruff has been
Slater can platoon with him with Lamont Wade Jr. Yeah, absolutely.
I just think there's so many ways that he can get to plate appearances. There's not that many ways he can get to like over 500 plate appearances.
So he had 381 last year, 18 homers, 6 steals, really maximized his 381. Projections are actually kind of wide ranging. Some have him getting up as high as 575, which you're not agreeing with. 457 is where ATC and the bat are. Where do you come out on the over under 457 for Lamont Wade plate appearances? Lamont Wade Jr., excuse me.
I would take the under.
Okay. Over under his 381 from last year then.
Ooh.
Are you in between the 381 and the 457, or are you below the 381?
I think I'm in between.
Okay, that's fair. That's a decent range, I think, to live in 381 to 4. At 381.
If I was doing a projection on him, I would probably be putting it around 425.
Okay, I can get behind that. Yeah. He didn't really play the first 2 months too. Consider that the 381 came in like a 4-month sample there.
Yeah.
He was disastrous against lefties, so the platoon was justified for Wade. But yeah, I think 4.25 is completely fair. And I understand your inclination to kind of feel like it might have been a little bit of a fluke last year, or at least where he maximized his skills, and that another 425 plate appearances wouldn't necessarily match what he did this past year.
Yeah,
I can totally get behind that. All right, Yoshi Tsutsugo. This is another favorite of mine in this group here. By the way, Lamont Wade goes at pick 305 on average with first base outfield eligibility. Yoshi Tsutsugo is next at first base at 326. And I really, really like him. I think a full-time role with Pittsburgh, he's got a great shot here. So I'm going to identify him as somebody we're not going to go through every one of these guys and the ones at the next tier. So let's each pick a guy here that we really like, and you can't pick Bradley because you've already spoken about him, and I can't pick Pavin Smith. Tsutsugo's my guy here.
Okay.
I think he can be an absolute monster in Pittsburgh. With a full-time role, he was great overseas. We hadn't really seen it until he finally got going a bit with Pittsburgh last year. 8 homers in a 134 WRC plus and 144 plate appearances. I'm not just extrapolating that, but I think he can be a 20-homer bat with a decent average up over 255.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, these guys, I've moved up quite a bit in my ranks recently. I've really kind of come around on him. I was a Tsutsugo hater for a long time, but you can't ignore what he did when he got to Pittsburgh. So yeah, I'm a fan.
All right, give us a guy that you really like here. That is, and by the way, you love Bobby Bradley. I love Pavin Smith. We've spoken about those two. That's why we're not doing them here.
I'm torn between Darren Ruff and Keston Hiura. Darren Ruff, I really, really like. If he had a better role on a team that would actually let him play full time, I think he could actually be really, really good. It's hard to see where the plate appearances come from. So Keston Hiura is the answer. I just took him in this draft. He's reworked his swing, gotten rid of the toe tap. I don't know what he's going to be, but we're talking about a guy who was like a top 50 pick like 2 seasons ago. Yeah. There's power, speed. He plays in a good ballpark. I think, like we said with the Brewers, that there's a lot of injury potential on that team, so he could find himself starting off in a utility role and then work his way into a full-time role, I think, fairly easily. So, Keston Hiura, I'm not done with you, baby. I'm ready to be heard again.
I think Christian Walker, we'll see what happens with him there. He's kind of a home guy in Arizona, nothing too crazy there. Let's get into the prospects and wrap up here at first base. And the prospect group has Juan Yepes from St. Louis, Tristan Cassis from Boston, the aforementioned Nick Prado and Vidi Pasquantino from KC, Lewin Diaz from Miami, Evan White from Seattle, and Sam Huff from Texas. We have dove in on a lot. We already talked about Cassis, Prado, Pasquantino, Lewin Diaz. We got into the other day. You mentioned Evan White earlier. Juan Yepes, we saw him at Fall League. He popped off. He and JJ Bleday were actually co MVPs there in the Fall League. He's a four corners guy, meaning first, third, left, right. Not great at any of them, but can kind of fake it at all of them. There's just no room at the end right now. I don't want to eliminate him because of that, because like you said, stuff happens and spots open. But does Juan Yepes find legit playing time this year to show that those AFL and his AAA skills, where he had a 154 OPS plus, a WRC plus this year, does he find time to display those skills at the major league level for Juan Yepes?
I don't think so. I just don't see the path to playing time. I mean, like I said, stuff happens.
But without stuff happening, it's not there.
You've got stalwarts on the corners there.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Nolan Arenado, you have Paul Goldschmidt.
And then even the two outfielders, they're not stalwarts in terms of playing time yet, but they're up-and-coming superstars, O'Neill and Carlson.
Yeah, you've got a top prospect in Carlson, O'Neill, who just had a breakout season. And then he's also blocked by Nolan Gorman, who's like probably going to be the DH most days because he's being blocked by all those other guys that we just talked about. So I think he needs a trade. And maybe that is something the Cardinals do. Maybe that could be part.
That could be their next guy they trade who blows up somewhere else.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe it's a matter of like, that's a Craig Kimbrell trade or something like that. Mm-hmm. But he needs a different location because he's just not good defensively enough to go to a position where they could use him.
Evan White, briefly mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
He's so unbelievably cheap. It's ridiculous. Signed the early deal before he ever debuted, has done nothing in 306 plate appearances spread across 2020 and 2021. Tiny sample. What do you realistically see out of Evan White this year? Can he, and what's the path to a breakout?
Oh, I really don't know.
Okay. But just taking the name at the
he's going
cost.
Yeah. So cheaply. And I think he's going to play. Like, I mean, I think at least be given an opportunity to play. Now, the Mariners have gotten to a point where if Evan White can't figure it out, he'll get sent down.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a guy who has shown in the minor leagues that he's got a good enough contact profile, plays great defensively. There's enough power in the bat that I think they're going to give him an opportunity to play. And I think there's talk that they could even give him some time in the outfield. And there's a lot of injury risk on this team anyway. So, I think he will find his way to 450 plate appearances, which is why I've been drafting him like super, super late.
Because like you said, in DCs, if you can find that many plate appearances that late, that's really significant. Absolutely. All right, last guy I want to talk about is Sam Huff. He came up as a catching prospect. Looks like they're off of that now because he's first base eligible, and I haven't really heard him being talked about for the catching job in Texas. Do you have any love for Sam Huff? He barely played at AAA last year, 7 games. So he's just working his way up. He played in the majors in 2020, but only for 33 plate appearances. Sam Huff do anything for you?
He would have played more in AAA if it not been for a season-ending knee injury in July, I think it was. So I don't know where he is back from that, but the news we got yesterday that Josh Young is going to miss some considerable time.
He's done for the year, isn't he?
Oh, is he?
He got the surgery. Okay. I think it's 6 months. He's done.
So, well, 6 months puts him in August.
He's done.
Yeah, probably.
Call him Law and Order because he's done.
Maybe that I don't know. I don't know that Huff can play third. So maybe
I don't know that he can either. Yeah.
I think it just helps Isaiah Kiner Falefa and maybe even Sheraton Apostle, who is a former interesting prospect that I really liked at one point. That got leapfrogged by Young. So
he's only 23. Sheraton Apostle is mad young still, so you should still have some of that love for him.
There's like a deep sleeper that he's not a this year's Cedric Mullins, but
No. He's just
maybe
an
it's
interesting guy, though.
a this year's Abraham Toro,
Ooh, okay.
who
Yeah.
nobody was talking about. I briefly mentioned in our third base preview as a super deep sleeper, and maybe Apostle's that guy. So, but anyways, Huff, I don't know where he gets the playing time, especially if he's not catching.
Yeah,
I
because
think his
Lowe, we just went
yeah.
crazy on Lowe there, and so I don't think
I
he
mean, I
gets
guess
DH either.
I guess DH. I don't know.
I mean, we got Willie Calhoun penciling in as DH, and I'm still in
Yeah,
on Willie Calhoun. I can't quit that guy.
yeah. But I mean, Willie Calhoun gets injured. I mean, there's a crap ton of power in this profile. There's also a
In
crap
Huff's
ton of
profile,
in Huff's profile. There's also a crap ton of swing and miss. Zero speed.
he didn't catch
Uh,
it all last year, by the way. So if you guys are
okay.
hoping for that to come back around, it doesn't look good for Huff to get back in behind the dish.
Yeah, he's a big dude too, so like he's probably perfect first baseman.
6'5", 240. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got. Does he? I don't think he has catcher eligibility, does
No,
he?
that's the thing. That's why I put him here because
Yeah,
he only shows first base eligible. So
I don't know that I'm super interested, but
I'm not
uh,
either.
I think extremely deep league AL only, where you've got minor league slots or something like that, because I don't think he's up day one. So, I guess he could be a super late dart throw.
Okay, that's Sam Huff out in Texas.
Yep.
That'll do it. That's first base. It is a deep position. We both really like it. We're finding a lot of stuff that we like. I tell you what, I'm going to be in this pool, I think, multiple times because I don't mind some of those studs that out front that we talked about, and then I'm going to be working the middle of the pool too. So my corner, I can definitely see my second baseman coming out of this pool with Cronenworth, LeMahieu, France, Scope, all eligible there. My fifth outfielder could be Yoshi Tsutsugo, who's first base outfield. I love the first base pool. I
Yeah.
really find a lot of players that are intriguing. So I think you and I are going to be dipping into this pool multiple times. Both of our rankings are updated for the Patreon folks. We updated them in the midst of this show even. So Justin, great talking with you about first base. We'll be back next week with second and short.
Take it easy.